the melee weapons. First of all, there's something I like to brush up on again. Every single piece of equipment you have has something called a rarity level. Once again, the order from most common to rarest is gray, blue, purple, golden, and red. From blue onwards, you get one extra added effect called modifier. Take a look at the bottom of the equipment cards to know what your modifiers are. So basically, with gray you have none, with blue you have 1, purple 2, golden 3, and red 4. But we'll get to those in a bit. And also, just one more thing about your weaponry. If you look right below each weapon's name, you see that weapon's unique perk. The Scythe weakens your enemies with each hit, the burst rifle has a higher chance of inflicting negative statuses, and so on and so forth. Now, going back to the melee weapons themselves, you have short swords, spears, scythes, falchions, twin knives, and a very special weapon that's a love letter to all us Devil May Cry weirdos out here. The gunchucks. If you've played Devil May Cry before, then I know you already know what I'm talking about. I won't go into much detail about them, but here's a quick rundown of all of them. The short sword is a very straightforward weapon that takes very little time to getting used to. Its attacks are quick and reliable. The good thing about them is that they offer a good balance between offense and defense. And since its attacks are very fast, you'll open your guard for a lot less time than you would, say, by using the Scythe or the Falcion. If you're new to metroidvania or gaming in general, stick to it. Next up, we have the spears. They have a good range and deal damage pretty quickly. The second attack in the combo is a flurry of thrusts, so if you're playing for the gunslinger type of character, that's a pretty good way to refill your ammo very quickly. Next up, we have a favorite of mine, the Scythe. It hits a very wide area and has a ridiculous reach. There's a catch though. The first attack of a ground combo has a very slow wind-up time, which will leave you quite exposed. But I found a way to counter this. Instead of starting off on the ground, do a short jump and attack just before you land. Don't worry, if you land while performing the area attack animation, the Arbiter will still conclude the attack only on the ground. And on a side note, this goes to show the level of attention the developers put into details. I like this. And then continue your offense from there. You see that the next hit will be the second attack of the ground combo, which is much faster and therefore safe. Seriously, this weapon can be a little trickier to use without getting your ass kicked, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fun. Now, the Falcians. Think of them as the longswords of the game. They're a middle ground between the short sword and the scythe in every aspect. And oh yeah, the same concept of transferring from a jump attack to a ground combo I just taught you with the scythe works here, should you feel like using it. I never used it much though, but that's because I was having way too much time with another weapon I'll be speaking about briefly. Next, we have the twin knives. They're the speed freaks of your arsenal. The first standing hit is a very swift 3-hit combo. Remember how I said that one attack restores one bullet of whatever weapon you're using? Well, do the math. Just be careful with the third hit of your ground combo though. It's a spinning attack that hits multiple times, but it also leaves you wide open. Be ready to slide or jump cancel out of it. And lastly, we have the coolest weapon in the game, the gunchuck. Yes, if you've played Devil May Cry before, then yes sir, it is exactly what you're thinking. The special standing action of the gunslinger style using the shotgun. The only difference is that it has a smaller reach and you only shoot forward. Those nunchucks fitted with shotguns at their tips are pretty awesome. Not only is their animation cool, but they also have a very good reach. You can tell by the muzzle flash. Its first 3 attacks are pretty fast, but be careful with the last one. It has a long wind-up time. Had enough yet? Well, I hope not, because now we'll dive into the firearms. You have quite the variety of firearms as well. There's the pistol, the shotgun, the burst rifle, the shock pistol, and for all you Rambo fans out there, the bow. And yes, they all play very differently. First up, the pistol. It's the short sword equivalent of the firearms. It's straightforward, simple, and effective. It may not pack as much damage per shot as, say, the mighty shotgun, the bow, or maybe even the shock pistol, but it's fast and highly precise. There were many instances where I found myself switching to the pistol because the shotgun wasn't being as effective as I needed my firearm to be. It holds 14 rounds in its clip. Next, we have my personal favorite, the shotgun. Since shotgun blasts fire pellets instead of one single round, this weapon hits multiple times and will always deal more damage than pistols. If enemies are clustered up in the direction you fire, they'll all take the hit. However, shotguns only hold a maximum of 4 shells at a time. So this is really the type of weapon for people who are always engaging in close quarter combat. Following up, we have the burst rifle. It deals less damage per shot than any other weapon and has slower projectiles than the pistol, but it fires in bursts of 3 rounds. I never used it much, but it may outdamage the pistol in the long run. Let me know in the comments if you're a burst rifle user and tested it out. The burst rifle holds, say, 5 charges in a way, and each charge lets off a burst of 3 shots. Next up, we have the weirdo of the bunch, but in a good way, the shock pistol. You see, this shock pistol works in a unique way. It has a small charge animation before each blast, and while its projectile may not be as fast as, again, the pistols, it has one unique perk. The shock current will transfer to an enemy that's right next to the first one you hit. Think of it as a middle ground between the pistol and the shotgun. It makes for some very aggressive mid-range fighting. And lastly, we have the bow. It has a very long range, the same as the pistols, and deals a lot of damage per shot. And to add insult to injury, it has piercing properties. If caught in a line, each arrow can hit a total of 2 enemies. Definitely a good weapon for those who like to keep their distance whenever possible. And on the last note, notice how on the weapon cards, right under the power indicator, there's something called DPS. No, that's not some type of quick shipping system offered by your postal service. DPS stands for damage per second. This concept may sound a little confusing, especially for slow weapons like the Scythe, but a quick way to illustrate this would be to take the total damage your weapon deals in 10 seconds and then divide it by 10. This is also good to know how fast you can deal damage with it. However, don't live on DPS alone. Sometimes it's better to consider damage per hit, not per second. Whew, and that's the basics of your melee weapons and firearms. Man, I'm thirsty after all this talking.